Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new Starfield video. So we have a whole bunch of new concept art once again to take a look at, and as per usual, this stuff's absolutely on point, so very much looking forward to getting stuck into this one. So, let's dive in, shall we? Okay, so yeah, earlier this week Bethesda put out a new Into the Starfield video, which was covering the music, actually, of the game, and I went over that yesterday, so if you haven't checked that one out, do have a little look. I'll put it up in the corner for you. It's a pretty interesting video going through sort of the mindset and the approach to making the music of the game that Xion, the composer, had, and also the work that Mark Lampert, the main audio designer on the game, the lead audio designer, did to sort of work with that and to design the audio for the game, and the mindset and everything that goes into that was really quite interesting. So strongly encourage you to take a look at that. But that video also included a few bits of new concept art, so we're going to take a little look at those today. Okay, so first up we have a absolutely gorgeous picture of a swamp. And that seems like a bit of a contradiction in terms, I'm sure Shrek would approve. This is really, really cool. There's definitely some scientific issues with the scale of the trees here, but you know, science fiction being the key word. I really like the atmosphere, the lighting, the look of this place is very cool. Something like this would be absolutely epic to explore. You can see we've got the player character down here, giving us something of a sense of scale, and this is massive. Exploring this, wandering around down below on the swamp levels at the bottom. I really like these little bubbles, by the way. It'd be really cool. Very, very atmospheric looking picture. I really like it. Lots of spiky plants and stuff, and all manner of potential hazards that could be hiding here. Be that wildlife or dangerous plants and stuff like that. That could be really, really cool. It's trailing vines and stuff. If we have a look at the Maya in Fallout 76, obviously older engine, older graphics, etc., etc. Obviously, look at concept art here, but still, they did a really amazing job on that, and it's a cool place to explore. So the potential for Bethesda to pull something awesome off with a swamp-type, jungle-esque environment like this would be really cool. Some interesting little sombrero-type deals going on down here. Don't know what the deal with that is, but very cool nonetheless. Yeah, potential up towards the top, maybe even to get up into the branches and sort of wander around the upper levels of the trees and see what's going on there. Who knows, if we've got a jetpack type thing going on, you might be able to jump from massive branch to massive branch, which would be potentially cool. They could do something interesting with that. Who knows? I do like this though, and I love the green as well. It's a gorgeous shade of green. Definitely one of my favourite colours. But yeah, really, really cool. Like this environment a lot. Really, really looking forward to some of the awesome environments that seem to be coming out of the concept art at the moment. It's going to be some cool stuff to explore here. There's definitely a lot of potential. There's a huge amount of range in it, some of which we're actually going to see today. But yeah, looking at that's going to mean the variety and the different types of environments we can get into and explore and experience is going to be really, really cool when Starfield launches in November. Which is, yeah, definitely hyped for that. So picture number 2, definitely at the other end of the scale, we've got inside some kind of ship or space station here, which is really, really cool. That NASA punk vibe that they've talked about so much is really, really coming in here, and I absolutely love this particular picture. Definitely, well, it's a strong contender for my favourite today, this one, I think. I'm guessing this is a space station, just looking out the window here. You've got a bit of a curve there that makes it look like this might be a planet. So, space station rather than ship, although I suppose it could be a ship coming into land. But very cool nonetheless. Love the little detailing on the door. Definitely harks back, as I've said in previous videos, to the sort of vibe of modern NASA and the International Space Station and stuff like that. All this kind of sort of pre-formed structures and plastics and stuff like that, and panels that are obviously just clipped and bolted together and stuff. It's very, very believable, very cool. Definitely a bit more grungy than, say, the International Space Station is, especially when you look around at the top here. You gotta look at the pipes and bars and beams and stuff hanging down. This is going to be a really cool environment to explore this sort of thing. So I'm definitely up for that. Bit of first aid stuff going on here. That even looks like a fire blanket there, which is like really cool little bits of detail. A little terminal here. Don't know what that could be. Radio of some kind, maybe? Possibly. Hoses and cable runs and all sorts going on through the walls as well. Little bits of detail and lighting and stuff around. There's a webbing, different use of textures as well. We've got plastics in here. There's stuff that looks like it might be more fabric-based. Obviously, these bits of floor look like they're made of rubber or something like that. Rubberized flooring, anyway. Stuff like that looks really cool. Webbing attaching stuff there as well. Over on this side too. This space actually looks really small, which I'm actually quite down for. The idea of a cramped little space station that doesn't give you a lot of room to move around in would be really atmospheric to explore, I think, and I hope there's to do something like that, because that'd be cool and really believable and very immersive, so I'd be very, very up for that. Although, can you imagine if your ship's docked, say, somewhere over behind this door, and you're trying to come in and you've got to fight your way down this corridor? There's not a lot of room to move in here or take cover or anything like that. You might have to hide outside the door, clear the corridor from the doorway, and then advance down the corridor. But that would be very, very cool as well. Yeah, definitely a lot of potential for some interesting exploration here. And obviously this could just be like an entranceway into a larger station or something like that as well. There's some more shots, well, more artwork of space stations coming up in a bit that's very, very cool as well. Or very different to this though, which is interesting. Yeah, I really, really like this. Definitely looking forward to getting into spaceships, space stations, that sort of thing, and exploring and really getting to grips with this art style that Bethesda are going for is absolutely awesome to me. This is really, really cool. Definitely one of my favourite styles of a sci-fi, that kind of grounded in reality thing. It's very, very cool. So, next one. This one is an interesting one, I think. There's a lot of potential here for dissection, but yeah, I love the art style overall. That sunset over on the horizon there is really, really nice. So we've got was probably the player character down here, looking out on this kind of basin. Something of a desert-type world here. I'm going to use the term loosely, I think, there. Not necessarily deserty as in Sahara, but as in just somewhere where there isn't a great deal of life. Lots of jagged rock formations. It could be some kind of moon, something like that, or definitely some kind of desolate planet, anyway, which is cool. I'm wondering what this could be back here. It looks like it might be some kind of solar panel-type deal, possibly, given the reflection on it. A big energy collection-type place would be quite cool. Makes sense to power this sort of thing. There's one option. There's no idea what this could be. Possibly some stuff that's just been stored, some crates, something like that, maybe. Or it could be some kind of vehicle, maybe, possibly. There's quite a tall structure there. Could be anything, really, just an interesting shape. So coming over this side, we've got some kind of vehicle. We've seen this sort of shape and outline in other concept art before, so it makes me think it's inspiring some kind of land-based vehicle. Obviously, as always, there's an open question as to how much vehicular travel and use we're going to get in a Bethesda game, or in any game, I suppose, but particularly Starfield here. My personal hunch, and I'm absolutely fine with this idea, is that apart from spaceships, we won't be driving very many vehicles, if any at all. I think we'll probably be doing most of our exploration on foot. If we look at the last video that I did on Vasco, the new companion, which again I'll link somewhere up top, so check that out. He was designed to be an expeditionary robot with the ability to cover difficult terrain on foot. And a lot of his little bits of design cues in the concept art and stuff really gave that impression that he's there to help you out with difficult terrain and stuff on foot. And I'm really inclined towards that, because you can't beat getting right in there with in the way that you do on foot. Sort of cruising past in vehicles is fun to a certain extent, but you miss so much more that way. So actually getting in and getting stuck in, I'm definitely down for it. I think that's going to be very cool. I guess that's the way they're going to go. There's a lot of debate and iffy rumours and stuff floating around at the moment regarding just how much control we'll have over our spaceship when it's flying in space. Don't really want to come down one way or the other. There's definitely arguments based on what we have seen and been told officially for both sides of that at the moment. So it's a coin flip. Either it will be there, it won't, and we just can't say one way or the other until Bethesda tell us, which will probably be in June. It's about 2 months from now. Very excited for that when we get to see some gameplay footage. But looking back at this, there's a whole load of stuff on this side that I really, really am interested in, because we've got a couple of little robots here. We know robots are a big thing in this world, not least of all because one of our companions is one, the only one we've met so far. But this structure is interesting. It's got a very temporary vibe to it. Very much a sort of assemble in place from something that got packed down very, very tightly and then was easy to assemble afterwards. So it could be some kind of research station that we've come across here. It could be that this player has just come over the ridge line there and stumbled onto this place. It's also conceivable that this is the sort of thing that a player could put together themselves via a base building system, which I really hope the game has in it. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. Obviously, it's completely unconfirmed at the moment. No information on that one way or the other. But, you know, if you look back right through Bethesda's history of games, going all the way back to, let's go as far as Oblivion for now, for example. That's quite far enough. It's about 15 years. You've got a player housing system in Oblivion. You've got a rudimentary one in Fallout 3. You've got various levels of player housing in Skyrim. Obviously, the houses you can buy plus the Hearthfire DLC. Then, obviously, Fallout 4, which has obviously introduced the settlement building system in a whole massive way, which is awesome, and I am eternally grateful for that, because I wouldn't be sitting here now without that. And then, of course, there's Fallout 76 with its camp building system, which I suspect, if anything, is probably more like how this will pan out. We'll set up little forward exploration camps. That's my guess, and it's really just a guess. But I could see that fitting in this world better than, say, something a bit more on the Fallout 4 scale. You know, that's a bit more permanent and prescribed locations. There might be a little mixture of both, you know, like houses you can acquire and then decorate, and forward camps you can build. Who knows? Until June, when we'll probably find out about this sort of thing. We'll have to just wait and see. Don't read too much into it, because obviously we could be wildly wrong on this. Could be completely off. But I'd be very surprised if there isn't some kind of base building mechanic, given the progression through Bethesda's previous games and the way these things go, and the huge popularity of it. But yeah, if that were to be a thing, this would certainly be a concept art potential sort of starting place for such a system, which would be very, very cool. We've also seen some stuff previously that could also allude to that. Again, might not, but you never know. It is very, very cool nonetheless, and as always, just a gorgeous piece of artwork. So, this one is much simpler, but I really like this one actually in its own way. There's not humongous amounts going on here. Obviously, we've got the player character down here in front, so that gives us a bit of a sense of scale again. Looking across the top here, I'm guessing this is an underground location of some kind, because that doesn't look like there's a sky up there. It doesn't seem to imply that there is. It's more like a cave network of some kind. Sort of caves, tunnels, catacombs, as I said before, exploring different styles of environments and radically different environments would be absolutely awesome. If we look back to that previous picture that we were on before, this world doesn't seem to have a vast amount on its surface. If that was, say, a research station that we're looking at, then maybe getting underneath, getting minerals and mining and that sort of thing might be more the style that we're going for. So this could be underground on the same planet, potentially. Although that previous picture doesn't look like it's got much water in it, and this one definitely does. So maybe a different planet entirely. Yeah, like water coming down from above, a cave network to explore, pools and ponds, all manner of beasties could be hiding anywhere in there. That would be potentially very, very cool to explore. I'm definitely excited for the vast range and breadth and different styles of environments to explore. It's going to be very, very cool with Starfield when that drops in a few months. So, next one. This one is an interesting picture to me. In a lot of ways, it looks like it's kind of a quick freehand painting, which is absolutely fine, of course, and it looks absolutely brilliant. The colours really pop on it. It's cool. There's very, very kind of soft lines and kind of quickly done vibe to it. But it touches on something here that I find absolutely fascinating as a potential concept, because the central point, obviously, is the young lady in the window here. And she looks like she's probably a teenager, there or thereabouts. Definitely a young-ish vibe to her. She sat there on a phone. Amuses me no end, the idea that years and years and years, centuries off in the future, teenagers are still sat there with their phones in their face the whole time. And I say teenagers, because I'm not acknowledging the fact that I do it too. But yeah, that kind of tickles me a little bit. But the idea of all this kind of talks about, what is family life going to be like in the future? Where are families going to live? What is it going to be like if you're living on a space station? Because this looks like a kid's bedroom, or teenager's bedroom. If you look down this bottom right corner, that could easily be a bed. There's a little plushy type thing, which is adorable, by the way. And a cushion there from the look of it. These could probably be books of some kind. Got some stuff hanging up on hooks, little posters and stuff. Encore. That could easily be some kind of futuristic band. That would be cool. Little pictures and stuff stuck up. This is very kid's bedroom vibe, or teenager's bedroom vibe, with a little space kitty. Gotta love the space kitty. So that kind of question of like, what is life like for the average person, average family living in a space station in the future, is a question I could easily miss if I was, I just wouldn't think about it. But obviously the Bethesda team, the devs, they have gone, okay, what is that? What is life like for these people? And that really is going to help bring the world to life in a really interesting way, make it more believable, and make you feel like it's a living, breathing, real, universal world with people in it and living their lives that have nap all to do with the player. Because plenty of people will be doing that. And that's really, really cool. I really like that kind of implication from this. And yeah, it's a really nice picture as well. This kind of chest of drawers down here actually is very old-fashioned in its style. It looks like an almost wooden set of chest of drawers that's come up from somewhere like Earth. Antique, maybe? Who knows? And it's been shoved into a sci-fi bedroom, which is entirely plausible. But that's kind of cool. Like, that little implication there is potentially very, very interesting, and I like it a lot. Yeah, an interesting piece of art, and the implications, as I say, for sort of the wider background world are really quite interesting. So, very cool. On to another relatively simplistic picture, but again, I quite like this one. The colours are really bold on it, which is cool. The interesting stuff here, I mean, there's not vast amounts of detail. It's very much a simplistic kind of internal spaceport of some kind, landing pad, but the actual level of detail is light on it. Obviously, there's a little bit down here at the bottom, a few on these pipes here, I guess, a little bit on the ship, but it kind of giving a vague impression of what an internal structure's spaceport landing pad might be like. It's quite interesting. There's definitely a few Mos Eisley vibes here, as there are in some of the other pieces of artwork. Whether or not this is going to be New Atlantis or somewhere else, who knows? Actually, if it's a Mos Eisley vibe, then more likely would be Aquila City, actually. But nonetheless, some of this sort of hanging stuff over here and the pipes and things just give that little bit of vibe. Obviously, the game's not going to be too much like any one sort of previously existing IP, be that Star Wars or Mass Effect or anything else. But those little snippets are definitely going to be fun things to stumble across and be reminded of, which would be cool. But there's an interesting thing here on scale, because we've got a couple of figures here. I'm assuming that's a person, and this certainly looks like a person. But if we look at them compared to this ship, there's not that much of a size difference. I mean, there is, but you know what I'm getting at. You can fit one person in here, maybe a second one, but then you've got really quite a small ship. And it certainly makes sense that there would be small 1 or 2 man craft that just zip around smaller areas as opposed to, you know, interstellar ships, which would likely be much larger. But it's cool to see some early concept art and ideas for such things, which is really, really interesting. This thing up here, harder to tell. It could be some kind of drone, actually, potentially. But it could also be a ship that's further out, or it could be something that's actually very small. Perspective on something like this is a bit challenging to make a call on. But the implications are quite cool there. I like that a lot. Like, the idea that we're going to see a range and breadth of different scales of ships, that makes complete sense to me, and obviously it'll be very, very interesting to have a look at different things. I can see myself wandering around going, look at the cool spaceship! Look at the cool spaceship! Which would be, I suppose, would be the Starfield equivalent of looking at cars, but nonetheless, I think I'm going to really enjoy that about the game as well. And yeah, interesting to see the masses of variety that are coming in here as well, and yet still in a kind of cohesive whole as part of the larger art style of Starfield, which is very, very cool. So, last picture of the day here, which is probably not doing anything we haven't seen before with a lot of other spaceship concept art. We're looking at a ship on the background of the rings of some kind of planet here. It definitely looks like it's sort of planetary rings in the background. We've seen a few things like this, different colours, different styles a bit, but this is just another one added to that collection. And again, we get to see something that is closer to the player's ship, at least in its look. If you look at the sort of prefab sections on it, there's a really modular design, which kind of informs a lot of the different ship art that we've seen so far, and even the player ship from the look of things. And there's lots of bits that look familiar compared to the ship that we saw in the trailer. So, interesting. Whether or not that means this is a different type of ship, or it's just some early concept that led on to what eventually became the player ship, who knows? Maybe even a little bit of both. But it's very, very interesting nonetheless. I really like this kind of modular design, and it gives me some weird combination of insect meets dinosaur vibes. The cockpit looks vaguely dinosaurish to my eye. And then obviously modularity and segmented sections looks like the body of an insect. But nonetheless, very cool. So there's a surprising amount of detail for this picture, which is interesting as well. As to what's going on around here, that's what I really want to know. It looks almost like something wrapped in some kind of fabric. Maybe it's a plasticized fabric, or maybe it's just an ordinary fabric. That's held down by webbing. In which case, that's on the outside of a ship, which would be weird. You wouldn't think that would be the case, so my immediate thought is maybe that's not what we're looking at here. On the other hand, if this is some kind of short distance, station-to-station transport that doesn't go into atmosphere, doesn't do interstellar travel, just goes from one space station to another in the same star system, for example, theoretically, there's no drag. So long as whatever you've got there can withstand exposure to the cold and lack of atmosphere and pressure, once it's attached, it'll stay there. As long as it obviously doesn't go flying off during acceleration or something, but there'll be no drag or anything, so it could even be that sort of thing. But obviously, wild speculation at that point, but an interesting idea. That does look like a big engine on the back, though. In any case, pretty interesting, I think. And yeah, it definitely links back to the design philosophies that we've seen in other ships in particular, and the player character ship as well, which is very, very cool. Maybe it's an older Constellation ship. Who knows? Very, very interesting nonetheless. And again, it really is in keeping with that NASA punk art style that they're going for. So, yeah, a whole bunch of very, very cool artwork here. Not as much as we've had in some of the other videos, but nonetheless, we are rapidly approaching now, or fairly rapidly approaching, the point where we're actually going to start seeing a new trailer possibly, and some gameplay. My hunch is that come the end of June, there will be a big online showcase thing from Xbox and Bethesda that is obviously replacing E3, which is, again, not happening this year. And when that happens, which it seems very, very likely that that's what's going to go down, Starfield is almost certain to be a really, really big part of that. It's probably Microsoft's tentpole release for the year, their biggest release for 2022. Not just Bethesda's and the Bethesda group of studios. But yeah, so I expect they'll be really pushing this. And we've got Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, has said a few months ago now, I think, that he really wants to see Starfield being the biggest ever Bethesda release. And with that in mind, I can imagine we can expect to see some really, really big amounts of information and footage and trailers and a really big showcase for the game. Much like we saw for, say, Fallout 4, when that was first announced at E3 way back in 2015. So, although obviously this will be an online event, it won't be at E3, blah, blah, blah. So, I suspect we'll get something like that in the summer, and then subsequent months we'll be getting more information and details and snippets and extra trailers and gameplay feature stuff being talked about, and etc, etc, etc. And obviously formal announcements about the Collector's Edition, which we've kind of figured out already, but formal announcements will be cool. But yeah, lots of really, really cool stuff likely to come between now and the end of the year, and plenty of time before that happens as well. But very hyped for all that and looking forward to seeing more stuff. Concept art today is really, really cool. Really happy to get a look at that. There's some really cool stuff in there. Really, really happy about that. And some potentially very, very cool environments to explore, and some cool hardware and tech and stuff that we've seen as well. So, we'd love to see what you guys think about that. Do let me know about your thoughts and impressions of the stuff in the comments. As always, my thoughts are just speculation and guesswork based on what we see right in front of us. So we'll have to see just how close we are when the time comes, but very excited to see more. So, if you enjoyed this video, please do consider dropping subs and likes for me. I very, very much appreciate it. Social media links, merch store, channel memberships all down below the video as well if you're interested in supporting the channel in that way. I very, 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 very much appreciate that. Massively, massively helps out. Huge thank you to everybody who's done that already. And if you get a chance, of course, do join us for live streams as well. We are playing Fallout 76 at the moment, as per usual. And we are playing Mass Effect 3 as well if you need a little sci-fi space fix. So I do hope you'll join us for those. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.